time in most years, we will have heard at least something about what our state budget is going to look like. We had David Thurman come to speak to new legislators a week or two ago, and he said they are really holding state budget things close to the vest and are working to ensure that nothing comes out about the state budget until after the governor's inauguration, which happened over the weekend. But we haven't heard anything at this point. But I do want to share some things about the state budget that you may or may not know. And this first slide is one where it talks about where most of our state funds go. And it's interesting to me, at least, that 60% of our total budget goes to either education, to TennCare, or to some other human services. But you can see how it breaks down. TennCare is the biggest single item in our state budget at 26% of our total state budget. Then K-12 and higher education is another 25%. And then human services, which includes state personnel and some other things, makes up another 9%. So you can see that the university budgets across the state as a whole are a fairly significant percentage of our overall state budget, but those four agencies make up 60% of our budget expenditures in the state. When you look at the revenue side of the state budget, you can see that sales tax makes up most of the income that we take in. Then there's the franchise and excise tax that adds another 20.5%. And those two taxes then are almost 84% of our total revenue. So anything that impacts sales tax in Tennessee impacts our budgets directly from a number of perspectives. And those agencies that rely very much on sources of income tied to sales tax need to be watching sales tax revenues pretty closely, because that reflects the revenue that we'll have as we work on our budgets. There are several things that our state is a very conservative budgeting state, and they try to be very conservative in projections as we move forward. In most years, our state, as it builds the budget, will plan on about 5% growth. But that growth over the last 4 years has averaged 11%. So we've had unprecedented growth in Tennessee. Now, when we built the FY23 budget for the state, then we built that based on an expected almost 2% increase in revenues. The latest projections are saying that our sales tax revenues for FY23 will be about 1.8%, and all taxes, they're kind of thinking maybe around 1.1%. And we'll show you some other information and projections. As a conservative estimate, it's likely that actuals will come in higher than what is projected, or at least that's how it has been in the past. And hopefully we'll see projections come in lower than what is actual again this year. But we're looking at a few dates. One is the governor's budget will be presented in his State of the State address on February the 6th. And then the General Assembly will finalize the budget as one of the last things they do before they adjourn, hopefully by the end of April, but usually even in years where there's some challenges and they go longer, we should know what our budget's going to be by early May. So we're looking forward to hearing what gets in the governor's budget here pretty quick. These are some data from the Boyd Center, and Dr. Don Bruce put these together, and it shows that we've really been in some unprecedented times, because normally our tax revenue doesn't grow unless we have a tax increase. And he shows that over time, but you can see from 2020 until now, we've had some very strong growth in our state. And Don Bruce is even projecting that our growth will level out around 2024, somewhere in the 4% growth range. This is different for Tennessee than it is for national projections. Some of the projections for next year have the United States in a small 0.2% decline. But in Tennessee, we're not expected to have any kind of recession as far out as folks are looking, which is positive for our state. And so we'll be watching those things with our national and state economy and how they affect our budgets pretty closely. In our budget submission, one of our priorities for funding has been our SMART program. We've asked for almost $1 million to fund SMART, and that includes 8 full-time employees. We would plan on putting some area folks across the state, one in each grand division of the state, to work much like our consultants in our other agencies to help counties as they get settle money to spend that wisely, to work on some cooperative efforts to try to make sure that best practices and evidence-based programs that make a difference are the things that we spend money on. And so we continue to work to get these funds for SMART, and we're looking forward to seeing if they make the governor's budget here in the next few weeks. If we don't make the governor's budget, then we'll work for a budget amendment from the General Assembly to try to achieve that funding. All right, shifting gears now, be sure that you save the date for our IPS conference. We'll be in Murfreesboro at the Embassy Suites. We've been there a few years ago. That's a great facility. We have a lot of things that happen there. And I want to give a shout out to all our conference committee members that are working on the conference. I'm excited about the ideas that they have and look forward to the work that they are doing to put on a good conference. They have big shoes to fill because we had a great conference in Chattanooga and they seem to just keep getting better. So committee members, no pressure, but we're looking for great things from you coming up, and we expect to see everybody there mid-September of 2023. I wanted to announce too that it is almost time to begin our UT Family Campaign. As you recall, we have 2 different campaigns that we participate in that we ask everyone to participate in. In the fall, we have our Campus Chest campaign, and the difference is those donations go to the United Way, and some of them can come back to university affiliated programs, but most of the donations there go to help community organizations and charities that are making a difference in our communities. The UT Family Campaign is internal giving. In other words, all donations that we make through the Family Campaign go to some entity within the University of Tennessee system. And so we encourage you to be thinking about what you can do in the Family Campaign. It begins February 6th and runs through March the 3rd. And the easiest way to do that is through payroll deduction. And we encourage folks to do it that way. It makes it quick and easy. If you're already donating to the university through payroll deduction or other ways that happen automatically, then you don't need to do anything unless you want to change where your gifts go or change the amount of your gift. So keep that in mind. If you're already giving through payroll deduction, you don't have to do anything unless you want to change something. Within IPS, we have over 30 different gift funds that you can give to. And so we hope you'll consider what you can do there. But again, it's not necessarily the size of the gift, but that everyone gives that matters. Last year, we had 100% giving in the family campaign, and we certainly don't want to back up from that this year. So I appreciate very much if you consider what you can do. And if you do $5 one time, that's all we're asking for. As far as participation goes, we need everyone to do that. But we have something new this year in the family campaign. If you make a new gift or you upgrade your giving, either one, we're going to enter you in a raffle that will be to win a pair of Tennessee football tickets to the first game and a parking pass for 2 at the first UT football game coming up this fall. So if you want to use that as some extra incentive, either upgrade your giving or make a first time new gift, and you'll be entered in that drawing for the football tickets. Any questions that you have, you can reach out to Kristen Davis, or you'll have an agency representative that will be announced for your agency, and you can contact them. And of course, you can contact anybody on the leadership team too, if you wish, about the family campaign. All right, I want to give some facilities updates. At annual conference, we talked about some of the plans we had for obtaining our 2 other, the West and East state-of-the-art training facilities. And we're still working on it. We've had some changes since I talked to you last. And one is at 1610 University Avenue. When we projected out what it would take to do the renovations for the entire building, the price tag came in about double what I was expecting it to be, and more than I was willing to pay for it, particularly with uncertainties in what the economy is going to do over the next few years. We had enough money to do it, but I didn't want to spend everything we had in our reserves to renovate the building and get the new training facility. So we have taken that off the table for now. We are looking to see if it might be feasible to go ahead and do the renovations of the second floor in the next fiscal year, not FY23, but we'd start the process again next year, which would put us a year or 2 out from doing anything at the earliest. But we might do the top floor in one fiscal year and then put our training facility in downstairs in the following fiscal year. Another option is looking at the real estate market in the Knoxville area to see if there might be some vacant buildings with more people working from home that weren't available when we first looked a few years ago. And so we're going to consider both of those options here in Knoxville for the East Tennessee training facility, either finding some new real estate or doing a staged renovation where we're not covering the cost all at one time. And we'll think about doing that. So those are the 2 things on the table. And those of you that are in Knoxville in this facility, or those of you that come here and visit or work here often, may have a question then, what about our carpet? We kind of postponed replacing our carpet that's peeling up all over the building, thinking we were going to do a renovation this fall or starting in July. Since we called that off, we've reached out to the carpet folks and are asking to go ahead and get that carpet redone. so that we can eliminate that safety hazard in the building and go ahead and get that taken care of, since we don't have a renovation date at this time. As far as our West Tennessee state-of-the-art training facility goes, if you look at the picture there on the left of your screen, at conference, we talked about the possibility of doing an additional wing, which is represented by that orange block. But since then, Scott Stewart, the station director there in West Tennessee, is also wanting to consider doing a separate building, which is represented by the white block kind of in the middle. There are advantages and disadvantages to either way. We have a meeting in February where we'll learn what UT Martin's needs are for that facility. And as you recall, we were talking about maybe having one floor for our state-of-the-art training facility and another floor for a UT Martin Jackson campus. And so there's some benefit to having the facility connected to the existing building and being able to use the whole facility for different things. But if we did the separate building, then we would expect to have better parking possibilities, because there aren't a lot of options for expanding parking there in the existing space. So we'll continue to have those conversations and be working to make some decisions here this spring, so that we can get in the capital improvements process for this next year. And as you know, that capital improvement thing takes time. So we're still probably looking at 4 or 5 years out at best on having something there at the facility in Jackson for our West Tennessee facility. I also might mention, since we have our work from home process fully implemented, since we typically are not needing as much office space in places, we're going to start looking at what can we do in the Nashville area, perhaps moving or making some changes at the CIS office at Polk Avenue to be able to house more folks there. I know that TLC has an interest in finding more cost-effective facilities, and that would help them. And so Paul and I have had some early conversations on here before too long, getting some folks in to look at the space and what kind of redesign we might do in Nashville to potentially have Polk Avenue as the place that a lot of our folks will come and work and have office facilities. So as we know more about that, we'll share more with you, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what we can learn there. All right. We just have received the results from our 2022 employee engagement survey. And we had a chance to look through it just briefly at our leadership team meeting last week. And I wanted to share just a few tidbits from the employee engagement survey with you here today. As soon as we can, we'll send the full results out to you so you can look at them in detail. But here's some highlights that I wanted to share today. First off, you can see that system-wide we had about almost 58% come in as engaged employees. You can see that the numbers are really close in the system from last year, 2021, to the past survey of the fall of 2022. If you look at the IPS overall scores, we came in at 66.2% engaged, which is down about 4 points for us from the prior survey in 2021. But the good news of this is that that 66.2% engaged is the highest engagement score of any UT system, campus, or entity. And so, you know, I'm proud that we have the highest score there of anybody in the system. I do have some concerns, however, that our disengaged folks or almost disengaged folks seem to have almost doubled, going from 6.3% to about 11.3%. Our disengaged have gone down about 1%, but we're going to be looking through the survey and through your comments to see what we can find that we can work on that will be helpful. And if you have suggestions to us, let your executive director know, or one of us in the IPS leadership team know. We want to hear from you what would help make a difference for you in our place. And you can see the benchmark numbers on the right-hand side of the screen. The benchmark is for higher education, so it's not specific to us and our audiences, but you can see that as far as engaged employees, we're about 5 points above the benchmark there. Continuing to look at the employee engagement scores, you can see here that system-wide, we had an employee experience score of 26.3 this year. That's the same as last year's score and much higher than the benchmark of 11.3. In IPS overall, we had a score of 36.1, and that's down a couple of points, almost 3 points from our last survey, but a very high score. And I'm pleased this year that every one of our agencies had a score of 20 or above, which is improvement for us overall at the agency level in our institute. And just a reminder, if you answer in the survey, it's a 10-point scale. If you answer with a response of 1 to 6, that is a detractor score. A score of 7 or 8 falls in the passive range. And then a score of 9 to 10 is a supporter. And to get the experience score, you subtract the percent distractors from the percent supporter to come up with that experience overall score. In the survey, we also get a graph that kind of shows places that we need to improve in. And a year ago when we did this, our 3 areas for improvement that came out of it were career advancement and development. And that's, again, an area that shows a need for improvement. One of our challenges at IPS is that we're a very flat organization, and opportunities for promotion are probably not as great as in business and industry and even some other places within the university because of how flat we are. Department collaboration was one last year and this year as well. And then recognition showed up as another area that we need to improve on, and it kind of replaced work-life balance. Although you'll see that in the bottom left quadrant, there's some things we're looking at and continue to work on, and work-life balance is one of those, in addition to leadership and compensation and some of those kinds of things. Compensation is one of the areas that was lower this time than last. And I understand why. We had inflation sometimes exceeding 8%, and our salary increases, unless you were at the very, very top of performance, didn't help a whole lot to address some of that. And it's a nationwide trend that folks have scored lower on compensation in this 2022 survey than the last. All right. One of the things that that Mary Ann Wanamaker shared with the new legislators that I thought I would share with you to illustrate the value of our educational benefit is this chart. And it points out very starkly that increasing your educational attainment can make a big difference for you. And so I really encourage folks that can get advanced degrees, or if you don't have a bachelor's degree, go ahead and get that. Use the benefit that we have at the university for tuition waiver to add to your educational attainment if you can in any way. First of all, folks that have an advanced degree or a bachelor's degree have a much lower unemployment rate over time. You can see that a bachelor's degree has a 2.5% unemployment rate. If you get a professional degree or a doctoral degree, down to 1.5%, where it's higher if you don't have those degrees. When you look at weekly earning, it makes a tremendous difference if you add that degree. If you don't have a bachelor's but have an associate, you can add about $500 a week to your income by going back to school and getting that bachelor's degree. And you can add about $230 a week to your income if you have a bachelor's and you get a master's, and so forth and so on. But it can make a huge difference in your lifetime earnings if you add a degree beyond what you have. And, if there's any way possible that you can do that, I very much encourage you to do so. It will make a positive difference for you and for your family if you can make that happen. And the university has a pretty generous benefit there and will help if you'll take the time and make the commitment to do that. It can make a huge difference for you. All right, now for some shout outs. We have two agencies that have birthdays this year. CTAS has its golden anniversary, 50 years. Congratulations, CTAS. We're going to be doing some things to celebrate that 50th anniversary all year long. And so we celebrate with them. And also our Center for Industrial Services turned 60. So they have their diamond anniversary this year. And again, we'll be celebrating that throughout the year. And congratulations to these agencies for these milestones that you're celebrating. It means that a whole lot of good work has happened for folks for a long time, and we look forward to sustaining that moving forward. Congratulations. Now, we had asked our agency directors for some examples of some folks doing really good work in each agency, and I want to share those with you as some shout outs. Before I start sharing details, I also want to say I know that there are all kinds of folks that we could call out and congratulate for outstanding work. And so we'll be doing this periodically, and I'll look forward to your picture being up here, if it's not today, at some point in the future. But as we start with the Center for Industrial Services team, we wanted to call out the logistics team for the great work that they've been doing. Felicia Roberts, Tammy Gage, Russell Harris, and Carol Jones are very much integral to the operations and the success we've had in our state-of-the-art training facility there at Polk Avenue. And they just continue to bring in testimonials from our IPS agencies, other UT groups, external customers that use the facility for an exceptionally high level of customer service that they provide to folks coming in to our training center at Polk Avenue. So thank you to the CIS logistics team that makes our training center experience one that's exceptional for both internal and external customers that we serve. For CTAS, I want to give a shout out to a group that had the very first inaugural Highway Officials Association Administrative Assistance Day. It was for a multi-county area up in Upper East and Middle Tennessee. And there are a number of the CTAS folks that were involved in putting together this program for administrative staff there. But they did all kinds of things and had topics, including training and consulting, information services. They demonstrated the highway database that Jacob Kennedy has redeveloped for counties to use. And so we want to give a shout out to that group that made this Administrative Assistance Day happen in Upper East Tennessee at CTAS. LEIC is next in the order, and so today is a great opportunity to recognize Rhiannon Jones at LEIC for her work on the Governor's Violence Prevention Fund. As the program manager for that effort, Rhiannon has led people on a team from LEIC, from MTAS, and from CTAS in preparing about 150 different grants to local law enforcement agencies across our state. It's a tremendous program that our communities will reap benefits from for years to come in the future. So thank you, Rhiannon. At MTAS, we want to call out the work of Yolanda Dillard and a team that put together a video to market their training programs. It's the first time that the training team has had a video to do marketing with. And while she had assistance from a number of other folks in MTAS and the training team, she took the lead and did the bulk of the work, carried a lot of the load that was required to get that video out to market MTAS training programs. So Yolanda, we're grateful for your work there and good job. At the NAFI Center, I want to recognize a couple of folks. One is Will Porter. Will has been the primary person in developing a new program that they have called CREW, Civility, Respect, Engagement, and Engagement in the Workplace. And that's a program to help participating teams build stronger teams, raise retention rates, lower turnover rates, and increase engagement among teams. That training includes several days of training over a 6-month period of time. And as teams do that, we can expect a substantial economic impact from reduced turnover rates for the agencies and folks that go through that training. I also want to give a shout out to Trent Clegg, who is the training specialist that leads our statewide certified public manager program. And it is we are the provider for the CPM program across our state and the only provider. And so they just finished, wound up a class and had over 30 capstone projects that were done. And it included a number of substantial economic impacts as a result that was done there. For instance, there was a capstone that had $12 million in grants that were completed and closed to implement a tracking system. And then in another one, a marina was built in a remote and rural county that's expected to bring about $1 million a year in revenue to that area. So a lot of great things going on in the CPM program. And I hear we have the biggest class ever coming up in the next group and cohort that the NAFI Center has in the CPM program. And I want to give a shout out to Jeremy Corvallis in the SMART program. He has written a number of guest articles that have been published in the Tennessean. He's started a podcast series that does interviews with content experts across the state and delivers those podcasts for the SMART program. He has greatly contributed to expanding knowledge related to drug use, drug misuse in Tennessee. So thank you, Jeremy. And last but not least, the Tennessee Language Center. Want to give a shout out to Adrian McDaniel, who's a project manager in interpretation and translation services at TLC. She came on board last February. She very quickly learned her new job responsibilities and was almost single-handedly running the interpretation program, and has been very instrumental in recruiting new interpreters to work in that program at TLC. She's strengthened some of our relationships with our clients and has accomplished a great deal in her first year at TLC. And also want to give a big thanks to Eric Amos, who has been involved in presenting to about 40 different employees of the Tennessee Department of Health in Cookeville about TLC services and programs, and marketing our programs there for TLC. So these are just some of the examples of good work going on in our different agencies. By no means are they the only great things happening, and we could have used a lot of different things, but we're proud of the work that's going on. I hope going through these things, in addition to recognizing good work of folks, also gives you a better sense of all the different kinds of things that we're collectively doing throughout the Institute for Public Service. I wish you could see as many of the different things as I do as I travel around the state, because it's just amazing the great work that all of you are doing and the impact that it has across our state. And thank you all for the good work that you're doing. And for those of you that we gave shout outs to today, we appreciate the good work. Keep it up. And we'll have some more the next time we gather together as a group to give shout outs to and recognize work going on that's making a difference across our state. So at this point, those are the comments that I had prepared to share with you. And if you have a question, feel free to unmute your mic and ask that question live, or I'll try to also monitor the chat here. If you want to put a question in chat, I'll try to pick it up there. What questions do you have? What is it that inquiring minds want to know about our place?
In the chat box, Chuck Downham had a question about exploring possible facility presence at UT Southern.
I'm sorry, Susan, say that one more time.
There was a question about the possibility of a facility at UT Southern at some point in the future.
Oh, a possibility of a facility at UT Southern sometime in the future. You know, that's a possibility, and we've had meetings with our leadership team with folks at UT Southern. I believe there are several programs that we could effectively work on together. And by combining our resources and providing those programs, possibly provide a better product as well as a larger reach. And so we're looking at those kinds of things. At times we've had some offices down in that part of the world. And if that need arose, I'm sure that that they would be willing for us to potentially have some offices there. And we do have some potential for some work together. I think as those things come online and to fruition, that may give us more opportunities to possibly have some space there. But that would be great. What else?
Dr. Byrd, I have a question. It's Francis from
Hi,
MCAS.
Francis. Thank you.
Hey, so my question is about, I have become aware of a policy or a procedure where if you do volunteer work, you can actually use work time to do that instead of taking annual leave. And I was curious if that applies to us. I think it's a system. I found the procedure, they call it a procedure. It's a system HR level, but that's something I'd be curious to know about.
Yes. We haven't gotten our procedure put together yet to do that. The system policy, or you may be right that it is a procedure, gives the campuses and institutes the opportunity to develop their own procedures on that. We have talked about it in our leadership team meetings, and we expect to be able to roll out before too long our procedures for doing that. There were a couple of hangups that it took a while to work through, and one is, if you're getting paid to work for in a volunteer role for a place and you get hurt, maybe you're doing a Habitat for Humanity thing, and like I did once, come off a roof and bust a collarbone and some other things. Since you're getting paid by the university for that, are you liable for that? And is that workman's comp? And so we resolved that, and legally there's some ways that that the university is not liable for that if you're in a volunteer role. So we've gotten that taken care of. We expect that we'll roll out, I think we talked about 8 hours of volunteer work that we could pay for. There's a certain amount of hours you have to do at one time. In other words, we don't want to do an hour across 8 different days, but maybe do it in at least 2 or 3 hour blocks, or it may even be, you might could split it up into 2 4 hour blocks. But we're planning to roll that out here as soon as we can get that put together and everybody in agreement on it. So we look forward to that opportunity. I think probably most of us in the Institute believe in giving back to the community in a lot of ways, in addition to the ways we do that professionally. And so we're excited about being able to roll that out here before too long at IPS. Great question. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
That didn't hurt too bad to ask, did it? It might encourage some other folks if it wasn't too painful. All right. What else?
Dr. Byrd.
Hey, Richard.
Hello. I was curious if any of the agencies have any projects involving UT faculty, like actually engaging or helping out with research, which I think would be interesting, but at least that we're not currently doing that at TLC, and maybe that's an option that we could pursue in the future.
I don't know if we have any current research projects going on, Richard, where UT faculty are doing that. We have had at times in the past. Matter of fact, we've contracted with some folks on the Knoxville campus to do some studies for us in the past. The last one we did had to do with how cities and municipalities could best pay for health care. And particularly for folks that are incarcerated, that they're responsible for. How do they deal with the health cost of those that are in their jails? And it was an interesting study. So there are opportunities for doing that. I know that we've had some of our agencies in conversations with some folks on main campus about some studies that we're interested in. I don't think any of them have come to the contract point yet, but we use a lot of faculty on all of our campuses to help us teach at times. We have some cooperative programs. For instance, CIS works very closely with the engineering department here in Knoxville on some things, and has facilitated some student groups doing work for manufacturers and having a group project. And we brought in experts to help do things like Six Sigma or Toyota Kata or lean manufacturing training at times. So we do have a lot of opportunities for partnerships with faculty in a number of different ways. And I'm sure that every agency could probably come up with something that's recently been done, or some partnerships with faculty on campus that are ongoing. And I know that we have a lot of folks at times that help teach classes on our different campuses. So there's some back and forth on that everywhere. That is one of the things I'd like to see grow more. And, you know, one of my goals I've had for a while has been to have some joint faculty positions where it makes sense. For instance, at some point, I would really like to have public policy person that's a faculty member half-time, and then half-time works for us on policy related things for local and state government. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Byrd.
What else? Any other questions? All right, if that's all, you're letting me off easy. Those were easy questions. Nobody else has a question? All right, so I'll make a deal. If there's one you didn't want to ask in front of everybody and you would like to know, shoot me an email, send me a text, catch me when I see you next, and be sure to ask. I like to say we don't have any secrets, and even if we tried, I think they'd be out pretty quick. So no sense in even trying. I appreciate you taking this hour to be with us today. And again, thank you for all the work that you're doing. You are making a positive difference in our state for a whole lot of folks that may never know what you did. And let me know if you found this worth your time. If you did, we're going to do it again on a periodic basis. And we look forward to seeing you down the road. Y'all take care, and we'll go ahead and close out at this point in time. See you.